Hello, everyone, and welcome to the interview of the game that we all know and love, of the person, I should say. um,
Aw, that's so cute.
the one and only Yannic. Yannic, how you
The
doing?
one and only. Hello.
Um, there is one question that I got right away that I need to get out of the way. How do you actually
This is
pronounce your
gonna be
name?
good. It's in the game. There's a button in the game which pronounces my name. It is Yannic.
Yannic.
Yannic. It's not really hard. It's just something that I think like Americans they don't use letters like that, I think.
I think most Americans end up pronouncing it unique.
Yeah, or like Yannic.
Yannick too, yeah. But
It's like the A is kind of like I pronounce it like a short A. Like Yannic.
Yannick.
And the I is different at the end as well. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff happening there.
Yeah, where is the button?
It's in extras, which is where the credits are as well. And that's like in the main menu.
We're gonna have to check that out later for sure.
Oh
But
yeah, sure. I thought you had the game open.
I don't. Sorry.
I thought you were like, yeah, let's check it out right away.
No, I don't have it open. I wanted to make sure that everything was good for this stream. And speaking of the game, I think our best bet right now is to start off with like early days.
Oh yeah.
When and how did you first conceptualize Zeepkist?
So for that, we need to go back quite a long way. Actually, you might have to go back all the way. You want to go back all the way, like start at the very
Sure.
beginning?
Let's
When
hear
I
it.
was a little boy, my parents bought me a video game, and we're talking like I'm 5 years old or something. Excuse me. This video game was Driver, like the very first Driver from like 1999. You have a car, you drive it in a 3D city, and cops chase you and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's epic. I want to also make car games for the computer. And then for the longest time, I had no idea how to do it. But then when I started like first programming when I was like 12 years old, I was making like racetracks and Roblox and stuff like that. And then later, when I moved on from Roblox into like C++ and stuff like that, I also tried making car physics. And it was only until I had used Unity for a couple of years that I finally figured out how to properly do car physics. And I was like, hell yeah, I've like unlocked the holy grail. I'm gonna make the best car game ever. So I started making my own driver, like 3D open world. You got a car, you're driving around, etc., etc. And I was doing that from about 2014, 2015, for about a year about a year or three. But the scope was way too big. Like, you're not gonna make the next GTA by yourself, especially if you're not that experienced. So after a while, I started thinking like, okay, I should, if I want to make like a commercial video game, I should really reduce the scope, make something that is a lot easier to make. And then in 2018, Akane invited me to come hang out at his place over the holidays. So I was there, I was hanging out with Akane, playing some video games on his computer, when his dad walked in and said, yo guys, do you want to go check out a soapbox race in town? And I was like, hell yeah, a real soapbox race with a real hill, because in the Netherlands we don't have hills. So on we went, checking out the soapbox race. And as I was standing there, I was like, you know what? This is kind of genius. You make a video game about cars, but you remove the engine. Scope massively decreased. So my whole idea was I'm going to make a soapbox racing game with a bunch of levels and split screen. And it's going to make me a shitload of money. And that was the plan. And as soon as I got home, I started working on that. And that's where it all started.
Huh. That's actually really interesting. It's funny with the lack of hills and whatnot, and then creating a game that is based on the hills.
I,
Um,
I think I think Dutch people have some sort of weird fascination with soapbox races culturally, specifically because we don't have that many hills. Like there's some sort of mythical aspect to soapbox racing because it's so hard to do where we live.
and obviously, it
Like-
ended up being successful for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah.
So, with that, how different is the game now compared to your original vision?
Oh wow, you want to see like some screenshots from the beginning?
It might take me a second to set this up, but I can do that. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I have in my like I have a very big folder which is like backed up on 5 different places with all my work stuff, and there's one folder inside it called um now I can't find it. No, it's here. Zeepkist Development Archive, which is like full of screenshots going back all the way to the very very start of making Soapbox. Zeepkist.
I
So we have like let's see. Yeah, I think this is one of the earliest screenshots you're gonna get.
right here like that. So this is early days Zeepkist.
Yeah, let me see if I have the timestamp on that. That is November. Wait, is it November or um in Windows? Does it do the month first or the day?
I'm not sure if it changes based off of where you are.
Oh, okay. It's 11. No, wait, what? It's yeah, it's November 9th. That's what it is. So November 9th, 2018. This would be.
And then here's another one, the ones that you sent over. No colors or anything on the car either.
Exactly, yeah. It's funny because I think I made like I put this version like back into the game like, oh, this is the super extremely white default soapbox.
And this is the, I'm assuming, the original soapbox.
Yes, yes. I made like this model and I just never changed it. I was like, I'm gonna keep this.
That is so cool.
Those wheels are actually the rims from the driver game I was making before called Blacktop. So I just like stole a bunch of assets from that to begin with.
Hmm. That's
Let me see if I can find a picture of that actually.
yeah, because I know you started developing Blacktop first, right?
Yes, yes. I started that in like 2015.
Okay.
Can you show videos as well? Or just pictures?
You'd have to share your screen, and I'd have to set it up, but it is doable.
Uh, well, how do I share my screen?
If you go down to the bottom left, you can share your screen.
I'm such a boomer. Oh yeah, okay. Let's make sure I'm not showing anything super confidential.
Trust me, I'm in the same
Um,
spot right now because I have to make sure I'm sharing Discord without sharing Discord.
we got it? All right. Check it out. So, this is the very first time I made car physics in Unity. And actually, it's not car physics, it is suspension physics. So all that's happening here is just a suspension making a cube go up and down. There's not even damping yet. Like you can see the blue thing in the background hopping up and down. That's the suspension code, which is now inside Zeepkist.
So
And this is a public video on my channel, so anyone can watch this.
that literally is what we're using right now in Zeepkist.
Exactly, like that is the whole cheese and bananas, basically. Oh my god, what? I just want to playlists. That doesn't
Seems
work. Oh god. All right, let's scroll through all this. Yeah, if you want to watch a bunch of stuff from my film school days, it's all on here, baby. Okay, let's continue with like yeah, 3.
So
Okay,
guys,
so
if you want, you guys can
here.
go subscribe to him.
Oh yeah, please do. There's only junk, but whatever. So this is where I think I added wheels. Well, not okay, not really. The next one is where I added wheels. Yeah, so this is where I had the first friction model for the wheels. You can see that if you steer the wheels, the car behaves like a car. And this is literally the exact same. Well, it's not literally the exact same code, but it's the same principles that I learned here, which are now running Zeepkist.
It shows that you didn't just jump into a game like Zeepkist as well. You had that like backstory basically. You were able to like
Yeah,
build up.
this is 9 years ago, basically. And then, like, let's see. I think this is a nice video. I just continued developing this for a whole while. I added like a whole damage model to everything, which, like, this looks just epic. God, I wish I could make this game. I think I could, but then I would have to take a lot of time away from Zeepkist, and I also don't know if it would be financially viable.
What if you could import something like that into Zeepkist as like a mini game?
Ooh, I think that would take away too much from the core
Okay.
of Zeepkist. Because like this is a completely different game, basically. What I want to make.
Okay.
But the tech, I'm so proud of what I did here, basically.
You
Oh
should
yeah,
be.
here's like a video of everything I did up until that point. Oh, it's like a little recap. That's fun. Oh, the logo is so cool as well. I still have that logo for the current web game Blacktop I'm doing. So we know this. Then we had wheels. Then I had like acceleration and stuff. So I was driving around. I made the first map. Tires. Very cool tires. Oh man, this is such a nostalgia trip.
It looks awesome too.
I know, right? Like that. Oh man, the open road.
It's also cool seeing like how the game progressed. Like you didn't start out with just like the car already made. You know,
No, absolutely, yeah.
you're
I
making all
always
your
start
physics
with
and stuff first.
yeah, I always start with cubes.
Make sure it's viable and whatnot, and then
Yes, exactly. Like the whole thing about making a video game of any kind is that you want your core mechanics to work, and in this case, it's the movement. So you first work on the movement, and everything else comes after. Oh man, oh dude. You know what would be really epic? This with somehow online multiplayer.
that would be sick.
Like that is still like my holy grail. Some sort of driving game like this with a map editor using spline-based roads and online multiplayer with network collisions.
That'd be hard to make though, right?
Yeah, extremely. Yeah, like I think the level editor with the spline-based roads I can do right now with the knowledge I have. The physics online is an extremely difficult challenge because figuring out how to compensate for the network lag is just I can probably do it given like months of figuring stuff out, but it's an extremely difficult challenge. I know it's possible because basically it's what GTA does. So you can do it, but yeah.
GTA also has a giant team behind them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if I was Rockstar, I could probably do it, but we need Zeep splines. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
What
Oh
is this
man.
engine thing that's illegal? You are a rock star. Oh
The
man.
crash physics are so cool. Oh, you can see a train going up there as well.
A flying train. Wow, what's next?
What is next? Oh man, I'm so stoked just looking back at all of this. Because I'll show you one more thing. I've been making this we're kind of veering off away from the interview and just me talking
Hey,
about stuff.
it works.
I've been making a web game for the past couple months, which is basically Blacktop for kids. So you can play this in your web browser or on like your phone, and it's basically like core gameplay wise exactly what I was trying to do then. You can even see it's the exact same car that I used back then, just low poly.
I noticed you said that this was like an exact replica of the city, right?
This city. That's a fun backstory. So Zeepkist is a video game inside of an alternate reality. That's like official
Mm.
Zeepkist lore. This city is in the alternate reality. So we are now in New Amsterdam,
Okay.
which in our timeline would be New York. So the city is a low poly rendition of what New Amsterdam would look like in the 1970s. I'll give you a little history lesson as well. We are now driving, this is like lower Manhattan, and we are now at Fort Amsterdam. This is the original fort that Dutch settlers built in Manhattan to, like not die. And in our time, we demolished it at some point, but I thought it's fun to keep it, so let's
Yeah.
keep it. But anyway, so I'm still doing Blacktop, and this is like pretty much a week away from being done. So in a way, Blacktop finally gets released after like 9 years.
Hey, congratulations. It's
Well,
it's still a
I'm really
major
proud of this as
accomplishment.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, like this is like, but this is the core gameplay loop. It's just you're a car, you're in a city, there's traffic, and there's police cars. And this is what Blacktop would have been, except then with like better graphics, nice damage model, whatever.
it still looks like it's a lot of fun.
Dude, it is extremely funny. It's like addictive as hell.
I'll have to check it
Who
out
knows?
once it's
Maybe in like another
fully
10 years,
released.
I can make my dream a reality.
That'd be awesome.
Because I think that's one of the final Blacktop videos. No, not this one. Here, this one. This is about as far as Blacktop got before I figured out it was too much work, basically, to complete. So here I made like a whole racetrack to
I
test car physics on and stuff.
I love the fact that it still has like some Zeepkist elements with like the road borders.
Oh yeah, the white and the orange.
Yep.
I love that color scheme. Yep.
Oh, that's sick.
But yeah, this is where it all came from. This is how Zeepkist began. And this is why I think it's also very funny to see people driving this car in Zeepkist, because it's like such a throwback. Oh, that's the bus you can see in the main menu and the
Oh,
sign as
really?
well. Yeah.
I love all these little like Easter eggs that you throw into the game.
Right? Yeah. Oh. It's especially nice right at this moment because I'm so close to publishing Blacktop for real. Because for the longest time, I thought Blacktop was something that I wanted to make at some point, but then never did. And now it's like, no, it's actually gonna exist in the real world as like a thing people can play. So that feels really special to me.
Oh yeah.
Like this car as well. Like it's in Zeepkist, but also it's gonna be in Blacktop. Oh, it's at a sign there. Welcome to Blacktop.
The explosion looks so cool.
Right, yeah, the explosion is epic. You wanna know why it's called Blacktop? Here's a fun little movie recommendation for you guys. 2 Lane Blacktop, which is a film from. Can I see when it's from? 1971. A bunch of guys drive this car. That's the whole movie. So I was like, that sounds cool. Blacktop. I can do something with that.
The whole movie just all in 1 second.
Yeah, it's got guys drive a car. Yeah, that's my favorite type of movie. Guys drive car.
Cargo's room.
Cargo's room. All right, that's enough screen sharing. How do I stop streaming? All right.
Cool. Yeah. So clearly, it's you had a lot of similarities as like your original concept, but all in all, it's totally different.
Yes. But it's yeah. What it comes down to is the car physics basically, and as long as I have my car physics, I can do with it whatever I want. But it still comes down to the same basic tech.
Yeah, and so with that, like, would you say that your hopes for Zeepkist have been fulfilled?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Um, in my wildest dreams, I don't think I would have expected it to grow into what it is right now. It's such a surreal thing. Like every single game developer wants their game to be like an extremely massive hit. And okay, sure, there's like bigger massive hits, of course. But whatever Zeepkist is, I don't think I would have dared dream that it would ever be this. Like such a huge community, so many streamers and YouTubers making videos all the time. So many people constantly like, oh, when is the new update coming out? Oh, what are we gonna get next time? I'm just like really excited about stuff that I'm just like doing.
Oh yeah, and we're excited about it as well.
Yeah, and it's such a weird and strange feeling, but also very nice.
So
But it's also like a weird position to be in, right? Because like it's a lot of responsibility to keep people happy.
for sure, and I'm sure it's very stressful too.
Oh, absolutely. Um, yeah.
Would you say there was ever a point that you were ready to give up on Zeepkist?
Mm, give up. Yes, I think there was at some point. Um, back when I like had first launched Zeepkist, before Khan and the boys started playing it, it basically had very few sales. Like it did not like it was a funny um amount of pocket change, right? But it was nowhere near enough to live off of it. So at that point I got like a a part-time day job somewhere. I was repairing like game controllers, so like PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox controllers. I think PlayStation 5 hadn't been released yet at that point. Um, and those would then get sold on like a website where they sell secondhand consoles and games and stuff like that. And it was fine for me, but it was really tedious and really boring. And every day I would be sitting there like staring out of the window, like, oh my god, what the hell am I doing here? I'm living back with my parents. I'm in some dead end job that pays minimum wage. What the heck? Um, maybe I should try and make a different game. See if I can make money some other way than Zeepkist. Um, but then right as I was like starting to have those thoughts, that's when Khan and the boys first started playing Zeepkist, and I quickly changed my mind.
Which makes sense. And so obviously it's come a long way from there. And
Yeah,
now when you look at this and you have, people like Con Cosmo, and everyone, making videos, and you have, now it's hitting number 2 in Twitch, for racing games. Like, how does
yeah,
that feel for you?
extremely surreal, extremely surreal. I mean, there's not, much more to say beyond that because like on one hand life feels extremely normal, right? Because you're just a guy and you're just going to work every day and you write some code and that's it. But on the other, like this is every game developer's dream.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's very strange,
And
but in a good way.
how do you handle the stress that comes with that, especially being a solo game dev. Um, is there any way that you like deal with the stress of it?
Badly. No, I'm quite susceptible to like stress and anxiety and stuff like that. But I I try to like guard myself from a lot of things that can cause stress. So for instance, I never look at my sales figures. I just look at my monthly income
Hmm.
statement and that's it. Because like at the start of Zeepkist, I would look at the sales like every single hour. Like, oh, how many games did I sell this hour? Oh, how many did I sell this hour? But it would just stress me out completely. Um, I try not to look at the suggestions and bugs too much because that quickly becomes very overwhelming. Like bugs, of course, have priority, but the suggestions like they pile up so much that it quickly becomes like an insurmountable hill of stuff that people expect you to do.
And that,
So I try.
sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
go ahead, go ahead.
And that makes sense though, because of how big this community has grown.
Yeah,
And you have over 4,000 people in the Discord alone, and people
yeah.
always have their own ideas of like what should be added or what should be changed or whatever. And I guess that also brings up a question of how do you take that and then prioritize what it is that you're actually working on?
So I have my own vision of the game, and my own vision basically always comes first because well, game developer knows best. Basically, is what it comes down to. Um, but that's not entirely true because people that do want certain stuff, certain things. Like if people are really running into something that I could, without too much effort, add and really improve the experience, then I'll do that. Or if people are like, "Yo, we want this kind of big change, which would make everything better," then I will try to like work that into my planning somehow. Because people wanted logic forever, and I was like, "Yes." But for that, I would have to change a lot of things, so I'm gonna keep it like in the future somewhere. But then I was like, okay, people really, really want logic. How can I make logic with the current save file system so it will be a reasonable amount of work? And that's how we ended up with the ball physics logic.
Hmm. But it ended up working out. Honestly, logic's really cool in this game, and I'm loving seeing what people have made with it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, for your question, how do you prioritize stuff? Carefully.
Hey,
That's what it comes down to. Yeah,
it's the only way to really do it, I guess. Um,
yeah, yeah.
I guess one of the things I know I've seen throughout Discord or even in game a number of times is if you were ever considering adding any kind of community of maps into the adventure mode.
Yeah. Oh, that's the
Oh,
question. Would
sorry,
I
yeah.
ever? Maybe. It's a big maybe.
um,
The issue with well, here's the thing. Like, why is it a maybe? Maybe a more interesting question. Because on the plus side, it would like relieve a lot of effort from my part, right? Like, I could have a lot of content for very little effort.
yep.
However, on the opposite side, there's the fact that if you add community maps, then um, they will become very inconsistent in like build style, art style, quality, what gamers can expect of it.
You also have to worry
Um,
about like who do you choose and how do you choose.
that's another big point, yeah. So it brings all of these pitfalls with it that might not make it worth it. It might just be easier to say, here's a bunch of official levels. If you want more, go check out the workshop.
And speaking of adventure, so you recently added on to the X series of levels, and then you made a whole bunch of other ones like the I levels and FL. But are you ever considering um, expanding on the older adventure series? You know, B, C, D, etc.
Oh, maybe. That's like a thought that's something I never think about. It's because it's so inconsequential. Like it doesn't matter to me if I add on to A or I continue with FL or whatever. It's mostly something I come up with on the spot and then don't put any thought into. It's just, what feels right at this moment? I'll do that.
And they usually end up being all in one theme.
Yes, because usually the types of adventure maps I make are there to showcase new features. So they kind of always end up just following the theme of the update that they were released in.
Um, and with that, like, how do you go about building your maps and decorating them?
That's a very, very good question, which I'm not entirely sure of myself because I need to be in a sort of inspired mood to be able to create good maps. And sometimes I feel totally uninspired and I just try to build a map and nothing happens. Like nothing comes out. Everything feels awkward and weird. I'm like, no, this is not it. Usually what I tend to do is I start with just the track itself, little bits of runoff area like grass or gravel or rocks. Um, and then once that is fun and done, I start making the scenery. I feel that works the best for me.
I know a lot of people like to do the scenery last because you need to have a
Yeah.
good layout in order to make a good track at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of a universal thing. It's really hard for me to imagine someone starting with the scenery and then trying to fit a track into that. That would be so much work.
And I feel like it would mainly be awkward, right?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to like let's say you make scenery first and then you add the track, and then you find out that maybe you need an S bend where you had a straight piece before, but it doesn't work now because the scenery is already there. So you have to shift all of the scenery over. So I feel like that would just be extremely inconvenient for me personally.
Now, with gifts, when you made the gifts,
Oh yeah.
certain ones are in definitely much more difficult spots to obtain. How did you decide which gifts went into a more difficult spot?
So I think we have. I've lost count of how many gifts we have exactly, but it's hundreds. Like there's hundreds and hundreds of gifts. At that point, it becomes impossible to track each and every single gift and to place them with very careful deliberation. So at such numbers, I cannot be like, okay, I'm gonna put all of the space helmets in space helmet related spots or whatever,
Mhm.
because like that's just too much of a mental burden to deal with at that point. Like if you had 10 or 12 gifts, yeah, you could like very carefully place them and put them in like lore interesting spaces or whatever. But there's just so many that my approach was kind of scattershot. It was more like, okay, I can put a gift here, and I can put a gift there, and I can put a gift there. Okay, next. Okay, I can put one here, and I can put one there. Where am I gonna put? Oh, it's gonna go there. Awesome.
Spray and
And,
pray
and then it still took me like a week or two to get all of them in.
because there's a lot.
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. So like from the player perspective, I can kind of understand that they're like, maybe this was all very deliberate, but it's more like, nah, dude, I was just putting them wherever I could because I had so many.
Running out of spots.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for real. Like eventually I was like, damn, every single spot is filled. Where am I gonna put this one? Okay, here's a random tree. I'm gonna put it behind the random tree, like 100 meters off the track. Whatever, I don't care.
Is that why you started adding like the ones you have to fly for?
Yes, because those I could put into interesting spaces.
Okay. I thought that was such a cool mechanic when I was first playing around with them and like, oh wow, now you have to go into the totally different spot of the track just to get to this like
Right? Yeah, I mean,
glider, and then you can fly around and try and get all these cosmetics.
it adds like a whole different way of looking at the track.
Um, yeah. So speaking of tracks, out of the tracks that you've made, what is your favorite?
Wow, what is my favorite? Um, okay, I'm gonna have to open Zeepkist for this because I'm not exactly sure what all of them are called. I'm a really big fan of. There's this one that goes through a forest, Um, I mean, there's a bunch of them that go through forest. I think it's one of the G levels. I think. Okay, 1 second. Zeepkist is starting. Play game.
RTY is
Replay.
guessing AO5.
AO5. No, not AO5.
While you're loading that, why is it that AO5 is the default?
Oh, that's a very good reason for that. AO5 is default because it uses single, like first-person view, and it is short.
Okay.
So for some things I was testing, I needed first-person view, and well, I specifically needed to be short because it's easier to test online multiplayer stuff when it's short. Yes, that's it. GO3, Forest Hill at Dawn. I think that is one of, if not my favorite level. I think it was one of the first where I really made like a lot of terrain surrounding the level, and I really like the vibe of the whole place. Just like you're in a forest, there's pine trees everywhere, the lighting is beautiful. There's like a lake.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest almost. So that I really like.
It's interesting.
But there's others as well which are really cool because CL01, that's also a good one. That's one of the very, very first levels I ever made for Zeepkist.
Really?
Yeah, the CL levels are like, the CL stands for classic. So it's like a bunch of levels I made very, very early on.
Okay.
Let's see. I like FL02 as well with the barns.
Oh yeah, that one was rage-inducing though.
Extremely difficult.
But once I got it, it was so satisfying.
Oh yeah. IO2 is also beautiful, I think. The aesthetic is just great with the desert and the palm trees.
And I know a lot of people were talking about how strong your author times were, especially on the flying ones. But with that whole V16 update, you had some really strong author times.
People say that, but whenever I play online multiplayer, I always lose. I never show up in the top 10 anymore. So how good am I really?
It's because I think we've all played levels a million times.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that is a large part of it, but I mean, you're clearly
Yeah, and it's not like I'm try-harding or anything. Like most author times, I take 15 minutes to set an author time and I'm done. Because I cannot spend hours on a single author time. Like at that point, it's like, dude, what are you doing? You've got other stuff to do.
Yeah. Like, make another track.
Yeah, exactly. Like add features or whatever. A lot of game development is like that. It's like, yeah, I could spend a lot of time doing this one specific thing, or I could do any of the other 1,000 things that also need doing.
And speaking of, I think we can go over a couple of your upcoming plans for updates. So you have the tree update coming up at some point. Is it only going to be trees? Is it going to have foliage and vegetation?
I can check out the secret Stillpan Discord.
Ooh.
We have. Well, I don't want to spoil or reveal too much because all of it can change. Like if something is too much work, I can just scrap it.
True.
But most of it is vegetation and tree based. So like a bunch more trees, a bunch more plants, a bunch of flowers, a bunch of tree specific parts, like just a bunch of leaves or just a bunch of vines. I want to add a bunch of topiary bushes. So those really fancy rich castle bushes. I want to make a bunch of big redwood tree blocks.
Oh, that'd be sick.
So you can make a really big tree out of different modules, basically. I want to add a bunch of nature-themed cosmetics. I've got canoe Zeepkist here. I've got dolphin Zeepkist, like a bunch of stuff like that.
That sounds like it's gonna be
Um,
a major update for visually. Like, I can't wait to see the tracks that are made once, like, all
yeah,
that
it's
stuff's added in.
it's intended to be like a pretty big content update. So I don't think I'll add like really any very big big game features. Uh, I'm still a bit coffee. Um, but it's mostly going to be just lots and lots of new blocks.
That's gonna be an awesome update. Um, and then, of course, the one thing I will say, this was the biggest question I had by far. Logic 2.0. What does it mean to
Ah,
you? Is there anything you can give us in terms of like anything that hasn't been announced yet? Are you considering adding any community involvement with that?
so I mean, there's not a lot of community involvement I need for Logic 2.0. What it's gonna be is I talked to Khan about this, and he gave me this really good idea. With the current system, save system, I can give blocks like a property, like they have right now, like oh, disable, enable piece of road, or like the velocity of the fan or something. I can make one property be a channel.
Okay.
So let's say there's 16 channels. There's probably going to be a load more, but whatever. And then we have one block, which is an input trigger, which is just like the normal logic trigger we have right now. And then on that block, there's one property which says channel. And then you enter a channel. So let's say we enter channel 2. Then we add another block, which may be a gate, like we have gates right now, or a ball dropper.
Mm-hmm.
And in that ball dropper, we set the channel property to 2 as well. This is something that we can do right now with the save system that I have. And what the game can then figure out is that if the channel 2 input trigger gets triggered, it sends that signal across channel 2 to the blocks that have the channel 2 output. Whatever. So someone triggers a trigger. The trigger checks which channel am I on? Channel 2, okay. All the blocks with channel 2 outputs now get triggered to do their thing. Gate opens or closes, ball gets dropped, whatever. And what this would do is basically just be wireless logic and a separation of the trigger blocks, the logic blocks. So that would be like AND gates, OR gates, and the output blocks, which would be gates or ball droppers or anything else.
Okay. That's
So, did that make sense?
yeah. It's almost like multi-threading it in a way.
Um, yeah, I guess you would call it that. Yeah, why not?
It, it, it seems like it's gonna be a lot more powerful.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And okay, logic's one of those things that's really interesting with the way that you've been able to implement it and what people have been able to create. I also love what people were able to create before logic. Some of the stuff is just insane. Um, and Khan also, like, watching his videos, it's so entertaining to see like how his brain works and how he can like create something with that.
Right? Yes,
Um,
yes, I very much agree.
and then like I know RTY was working on making Doom in Zeepkist.
Yeah.
Um,
Doom and Zeepkist.
like there are so many cool like almost mini games that have been made inside of Zeepkist, both before and after the first Logic. And I'm thinking Logic 2.0, we might even see a giant increase in that as it becomes more
Oh
powerful.
yeah, for sure. Because the nice thing with Logic 2.0 is that you have so much more freedom in what you can do with your blocks. Like I could make different types of input trigger gates. Like right now we just have a force field, but let's say we make a random pulse generator.
Hmm.
It would be an input, and it would send its message across the channel, and it will be super powerful. Basically, we're no longer. I'm no longer limited to having the input and output in the same block, which is kind of limiting.
Okay.
Well, and then of course the physics of the balls, like that's always extremely, extremely janky.
Yeah. But you know, people have managed to make it work.
They have, yeah, they have. But it would be nice to have it be a lot more reliable than it is right now, I think.
Yeah. Now a potential thing in the future. Are you ever considering overhauling the editor?
Um, Overhauling, probably not, because overhauling is a very, very big word. Like that would
Okay.
mean months and months and months of work. Um, so I'm not sure if that's like worth the effort, because that's
Okay.
like a big thing in game development. Um, what I am planning is like a lot of updates to it still, like just quality of life stuff. For instance, I want to add object grouping that you can select a bunch of blocks, tell the game this is now one group, and then whenever you select it, you just select the group instead of the individual block.
Huh.
And like there's a bunch of stuff like that which I have planned. I mean, like I said, I want to overhaul the save system, which is a big, going to be a big change, because that would allow more properties to be saved in blocks, which would technically allow for stuff like custom messages on blocks or whatever.
That'd be cool, but also potentially abusable.
Yeah, yeah. But for instance,
For instance, or are you just saying
like
that as for instance? Okay, yeah.
like
Sorry.
for instance, you could do that.
I thought you're like giving another example with that, and
No, 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 no.
oh man. Um,
So like yeah, am I gonna update the level editor for sure? Am I gonna overhaul it? When people say overhaul, they probably think a completely new level editor, and that's
yeah,
probably not gonna happen
that makes
because I've
sense.
already done that like one or two times before in the past, and it was always so much work.
Yeah. Now DLCs, I know a lot of people enjoy them, and a lot of people are looking forward to more of them. Is that something else that
Yeah.
could be in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I have plans for loads of DLC. The issue with DLC is that if you release too much DLC when you're still in early access, you can burn up a lot of goodwill from the community or from
True.
people who don't have the game right now. Because they'll see, oh, it's an early access title, and they have 7 DLCs. What the hell? Is this developer some sort of scammer who just wants to take our money? So that's something I try to be very careful about right now.
I would
But once the game is out of early access, I could be a lot more liberal with making and releasing DLCs.
I would think it's probably more so an issue of the people who are looking at getting the game more than the people who are currently in the community. I know that there's been a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
support for more DLCs. So
yeah, exactly. But a lot of it is setting expectations,
yep.
and if people see early access game and a heck load of DLC, then their expectation is, oh, this developer is greedy, and that might cause them to bounce off. So in that case, I have to prioritize what potential customers would think over what the community wants.
Yep, that makes sense because I mean, you want to grow the community still.
Yeah, exactly. Because like if a bunch of people bounce off and no new community members come in, that's not great for anyone.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the community in general, I know the vast majority of us do we do run with mods. Things like
Hmm.
GTR is a big one, or things like an editor too have a whole bunch of really important mods. Um,
Yeah.
First off, what are your thoughts on the community using mods? And secondly, do you ever consider adding popular mods into Zeepkist?
Um, I support mods generally because they add like loads of functionality that I
Mm.
just either don't have the time or don't prioritize. Um, would I add mods officially? I think I have done that in some fashion. Like I haven't
Mm.
taken the code of the mod itself because that would come with all sorts of copyright issues and maintainability issues. But I have added um, speed splits, I think
Yep.
they call it.
Yep.
Like that's something that was such a good idea that I was like, dude, I'm just gonna add this as an official feature because this just works so well.
And it was a really important mod too, and now it's important in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
game.
Like loads of people use it, I think.
Oh yeah, I think before you added it, it was the second most popular mod in Modkist.
Yeah, exactly. So would I? Yeah, for sure. I'd write my own code, of course, but yeah, if it's a good enough idea and I can do it, then yeah. Because here's another thing, like something like GTR, I would love to add, but I have absolutely zero experience with online databases or databases in general. So
Okay,
that's something that's extremely, extremely difficult for me to do. Like I think I could if I sat down for it a couple months, but again, then it's like, yeah, I could do database learning for a couple months, or I could make a bunch of updates. And it's like, yeah, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What's the smartest option here?
yeah. Um, and another one of those things where I think it would take a lot of time, um, and may or may not be worth it, but graphically in Zeepkist, are you planning on improving graphics, whether it's like optimizing them or implementing more like features or whatever?
Like, what kind of features are you thinking of in that case?
That is a great question. That was just a question that was asked. Like displacement maps or marching triangles.
Whoa, that sounds very difficult. The issue with a lot of like if you change graphics, you have the potential to break a lot of existing maps because they were never built with the new graphics in mind.
Okay, I never would have
And
thought of
that's
that.
something that, yeah, that's something that's a very big consideration of anything I do in Zeepkist. I can easily add things, but it's very difficult to modify things because if you modify something and it causes unexpected results in existing levels, then you have the potential to break a lot of things in game,
Okay,
which is a unique issue for games that have user generated content.
and ironically, the big thing that always sticks in my mind is GTR, um, because there have been some maps every once in a while that would break because of some physics change,
Yes,
and that causes issues where it's like, okay, now this world record is impossible to get.
exactly, exactly. That's exactly the sort of stuff you want to avoid. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes it's like such an important change that you're like, yeah, this is gonna have to happen. But I try to minimize that as much as I can.
Yeah. Um, Now with that, currently in Zapkus, obviously it's a very successful game, and you're able to like keep pushing a whole bunch of new updates that are always, at least in my opinion, making the game better and better and better. But as it stands right now, what is your least favorite part of Zapkist, and what are you planning on doing to change it?
Whoa, my least favorite part of Zeepkist. That's a hard question. I don't think I've ever thought of. Well, okay, no, 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 no. That's not the least favorite part of Zeepkist. That's my least favorite part of developing Zeepkist. Um, is user interfaces.
Okay,
Anything menu related is just complete hell to work with. But that's not the question. Um, I don't know because like the question is, what part of Zeepkist needs the most urgent improvement, basically,
that's
right?
pretty much what it comes down to. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not to say that it's bad. It could still be good, but it could be like something that you think n- could greatly benefit from a change.
Well, I think that's no more difficult than just looking at my list of priorities at the moment.
True.
Like just looking at the roadmap, and I think that reveals the vegetation isn't good enough. Or I think I could make vegetation look a lot better by adding a lot of blocks.
Okay.
So probably that, or and then at that point after that, the logic. I could improve the logic a lot easily. So we'll do logic v2. Um, yeah, that might not be a very satisfying answer, but I think that's what it comes down to. Like the stuff I'm planning to do first is the stuff that I care most about or think should be changed the most.
Yeah, and that does make a lot of sense. I say I knew it was gonna be a hard question. I kind of wanted to know what your thought was on that, and it was a little thought provoking one. I think something that you
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
normally
but
think of.
yeah, but it's no, it wasn't. It's a good question. It's just yeah, I think it's well, if when you get down to it, it's quite a simple answer.
Yeah.
It's just whatever I prioritize most.
And going along with that, what is it that you are? Is there something that you're definitely never adding to this game?
Ray tracing,
Okay.
probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Probably. I mean, yeah, no, very, very probably. Because for ray tracing, okay, here's a little Unity history lesson. First, very, very many years ago, Unity had one rendering pipeline, they call it. So one setting for all of the rendering. They call that built-in rendering after the fact, because first it was just like normal rendering. And then the geniuses at Unity were like, yo, you know what would be epic? If we added 3 other rendering pipelines. And we're going to call them high definition rendering pipeline, low definition rendering pipeline, and scriptable rendering pipeline. Let's just have 4 rendering pipelines. It'll be genius. But that wasn't, because now you've essentially split up the whole engine into 4 different engines. If someone makes a shader for the built-in pipeline, the shader won't work for any of the other pipelines. None of it is interchangeable. So if you go in the asset store, if you want to use anything, you first have to look at, okay, which rendering pipelines are supported, because they're all different. And with that comes the features that Unity adds to the game, because now they had new rendering pipelines. All the cute rendering features that were new went to the new rendering pipelines instead of built-in. However, because Zeepkist stems from 2018, it still uses built-in, which incidentally I still think is the best rendering pipeline because it's the most stable.
Okay.
But with that comes that there's no inbuilt Unity support for ray tracing. So if I wanted to use ray tracing, I would need to switch to a different rendering pipeline. But if I were to switch to a different rendering pipeline, it would also break every single visual effect in the game. There would be no more volumetric lighting. I would have to update every single custom shader I have. That would mean the wicket shader, the checkpoint shaders, the bubble shaders. The neon would probably not work anymore. The street lights, every single light would have to be recalibrated to work with the new rendering pipeline because the lighting calculations are now different. It would be a hacking load of work, which, honestly, I would rather not do.
Yeah,
For something like that, I would sooner make a sequel to Zeepkist than add it to Zeepkist proper.
that makes sense. It's
Zeepkist runs on built-in RT, so
yeah, that'd be a huge undertaking. Um,
yeah,
and it, continue with like the big undertakings. You had the whole sound update. For me, obviously, I don't know if
yeah,
you are overly familiar with it. I'm really into music. I do a lot of stuff with music.
oh
Um,
yeah.
but obviously, we know Duncan was the person who did it. What was it like working with him to generate the sounds of the game and the music and everything like that?
Well, pretty chill. I know Duncan in real life. Like we've met each other a couple times, so we're pretty good friends. So it's all like very like casual and cordial. He's not like a full-time sound designer. Like he has a day job, so he can't like he has to juggle his schedule a bit. Like, oh, when can I do this? When can I do that? But no, it's really nice working with him. I mean,
Yeah,
he helped me as well with I think it was the 2-year anniversary. There he interviewed me and we just
yep.
yeah, hung out. Oh, Duncan's a great guy.
And that's what gave me the idea of doing this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Been 2 years
No,
since the
it's
last one.
really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think yeah. I don't think I did anything for the 3-year. Not sure.
I don't think so, but honestly, it's another major milestone coming up. It's
Yeah, yeah.
hard to believe. So it's been 4 years. How many hours across those 4 years do you think you have between
Wow.
dev time and in-game time?
Hell. Oh man, I don't think there's any good way to like. I mean, I could approximate it. Like, let's say I work 30 hours a week. Um, yeah, let's do a back of the napkin calculation. I've been working on Zeepkist full time since January 2020. So that is 5 years. 5 years times 51 weeks times 30 hours a week. Plus, before that, were 2 years of doing it as a hobby. So let's say 5 hours a week. So that's plus 5 times 2 times 51 times 5. This is extremely rough napkin calculation. That will be 8,160 hours.
Jeez, that is insane. I know there's a couple people then who are in game who are approaching you, at least for time with the game.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I know there's
That's
at least one person with over 5,000 hours.
yeah.
I'm approaching 2,000 myself.
But that's how it happens that people get better at the game than I am, because well, there's no way I would spend 5,000 hours playing it.
Well, especially because you're making it.
Yeah,
You can use
like
that time for making it.
I wouldn't have time to do anything else at that point, basically.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people have been wondering, like, about Zeepkist staying only on PC.
Yeah.
Is there any plans to ever move it to another platform? From what I understand, there are some platforms that are a little bit easier than others, but I know it'd be a big
So
undertaking.
there's no official plans. Porting is something I would like to do. It is something that I've thought about a lot. But what it comes down to is that on your own, it's such an insane undertaking to do that it's easier to avoid it. And if I were to ever port Zeepkist, I think I would do like I would split it off from what Zeepkist is now, and I would call it Zeepkist Portable Edition or Zeepkist Wacky Adventures.
Okay.
And I would strip a bunch of features out. Like I would not have a workshop. I would maybe not even have online multiplayer. Like it would just be, let's say, 500 levels, a bunch of user levels, split screen adventure mode. That's it. Have fun. Like it's a game you can play with your kids or something. So like a heavily dumbed down version that would be more fitting for console. That I could see happening. But even that, like that's so much effort that I really need to weigh the cost benefit of doing something like that, because it would be a lot of work still.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned the split screen, something that I am kind of surprised hasn't been done in the past was allowing split screen online. Is there a reason why?
Yes. Because in split screen, you can give your opponent an advantage. So in split screen, you can, let's say, you can bump your friend from behind and give your
Hmm.
friend a little boost.
Okay.
And that friend may then get a time which is completely impossible in single player. And if you were to allow that online, you would very, very quickly start seeing people cheesing it by playing 2 or 3 or 4 players by themselves to give one of their selves an advantage.
What if it was like removed from online like that? It was just like the same kind of split screen as you could do personally, but like you have like a friend code, and it's just
Well, at that point, how big is the market for that? How many
true.
people want to play split screen, but then online as well with other people who are also playing split screen at the exact same moment? While split screen itself is like not a lot of people ever play it, and you only really do it at parties when you want to be involved with the people in the room and not anyone
Yeah,
online.
that
So
makes
it's
sense.
like, and that's not even talking about the technical aspect of having to like synchronize 4 different players at the same time, because that'd be a bunch of work. It would be possible, sure, but it's like how much would it really add
Yeah.
versus the amount of effort that goes into it.
Okay, that makes sense though. Um, so obviously we already talked about how popular the game has become, but if it becomes insanely popular, like orders of magnitudes larger, would you create a dev team or would you still work alone?
I That's really hard to say. I think because then you start thinking about priorities in life, right?
Hmm.
Because the amount of money you would need to start a dev team starts to approach the amount of money you need to retire.
Yeah,
So once you get to that money, you have an option. Either you can retire and never have to work a single day in your life again, just making like little boutique solo indie projects, which you love doing, or you bet all of that money on booting up a dev team and hoping that that eventually makes more money than you started with.
okay.
Um, Personally, I'm inclined right now to say that my money would be on retirement
Okay.
because, like, like we're talking about, like, let's say you have 5 million in the bank.
Yeah, you could retire
It's
easy on that.
Yeah, like it's really hard to do. And even if you do have a dev team, there's no guarantee that you'll get back to the 5 million that you started with.
True.
Um, so I think I would go, if I would get to any such point, I would go the retirement route, make funny little projects that I like to make, still maintain Zeepkist, and then see if I can get again enough money to then start a dev team, um, completely separate from like the private amount of money which I need for retirement.
Yeah,
Because I think you will work a lot better as an artist, be able to be a lot more creative, take a lot more risk in your projects if you don't have to worry about paying the bills.
for sure.
Because having to pay the bills severely limits you in um, your creative decisions.
Yep,
Because everything becomes, is this sellable? Is this marketable? Is this something that will make me money? Whereas if you have 5 million in the bank and you can live off of dividends, it's like, screw it, I'm gonna make something extremely funny.
passion
Will
projects.
it sell? Maybe it will sell 2 copies. I don't care.
Yeah. Now let's say for example, then if a large company came to you, and offered you to buy Zapekist, we'll say
Yeah,
it's enough to retire on. Would you accept it?
yeah. That's a very, very hypothetical question. Um, the issue is, of course, that maybe, likely, the big company will um eventually start pulling shenanigans, like happened with Kerbal Space Program 2.
Yep.
Um, which wouldn't be nice. However, on the other hand, there is the fact that I could retire and focus on other projects. And then the question becomes, what do I really want to do in life? Do I want to babysit Zeepkist for the rest of my life? Or would I want to go off on my own and start a new project, which may be more interesting than Zeepkist ever was? So, like, that's a really difficult question. I think knowing myself, it would be very hard to resist the temptation to just say, okay, boys, it's time to retire. However, that said, I don't think there's gonna be a company making me such an offer.
True. It makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, because like realistically, well, especially right now with the current, what do you call it, the interest rate environment, it's so expensive to get a loan that no company is gonna go out on a limb and just send me a heck load of cash to buy a project that exists. Like, game developers and game development companies are barely surviving as is without taking super weird risks. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very hypothetical question, which I don't think will happen ever.
Okay. it's another cool one of trying to like understand like your thought process with things and
Yeah,
potentially giving you
it's
an existential crisis apparently. So,
no, not a crisis. It's
but
just like it's a very deep question. Like, what
yeah,
do you want in life, and what is the most important to you in life? And as much as I love Zeepkist, it is still like a very big source of stress and anxiety and stuff like that. And if someone said, "Hey, do you want to not have stress and anxiety ever again in your whole life?" I would be like, "Yo, dog, that's like kind of a really good deal, you know?" And that's not to say I don't love Zeepkist, which I really do a lot. But yeah, you know, it's like
it's
that's
still a
difficult to
job.
weigh. Yeah,
Every job's going to always have a downfall, something that you don't like, and you have to do it.
yeah, and it's like I showed you Blacktop. If someone said, "What if instead of having to work on Zeepkist, we'll hand it over to 10 developers and we'll give you all the cash you want to make Blacktop as beautiful as you want?" You know, I could be like, "Yeah, I can go make Blacktop now."
Hmm,
But again, it's so hypothetical that like any answer here is kind of moot to begin with.
that's fair. Now, will there actually ever become a point though that you were either satisfied or finished with the game, or do you think there's always going to be something more that you have to do?
Well, there's definitely going to be like a 1.0. Um, okay, Zipkit versioning doesn't work like 1.0, but there will be a time where it's like, okay, we are now transitioning from early access to full release, and with that will probably come a shift from many updates all the time to more time between updates, um, more DLC instead of updates, um, stuff like that.
Okay.
Because like at a certain point, the game is like kind of done. Um, and I could definitely see myself still adding stuff after that. Um, oh, I'm sorry, but we'll see when we get there.
No.
I think, like, if we're looking at 10, 20 years down the line, there's going to be a certain point where it's like, guys, the game is done.
Uh, which
But
which
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, like, but yeah, that's so far off. Like, in 10, 20 years, I'll be what? Like, I'll be approaching 50. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Like, at a certain point, I die. You know?
Well, also, I mean, you have to worry about like the age of the game as well.
Yeah, like, at a certain point, it might not even be, like, supported on platforms anymore.
Yeah. Happy birthday to Yannic. Congratulations on 4 years. Thank
Yeah,
you all
thank
so
you.
much for watching,
Let's
and I'll
do this
see you
again
next time.
in a couple of years again.
Hey,
So
I'm down. All right.
awesome. Yeah,
Uh,
cool.
I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Okay, see you guys.